Leeds United will need to get business done quickly this summer because the quicker you do the business, you get a little bit more certainty. And if you have more certainty, you get into the season a lot more prepared. And there is a move that just makes sense for Leeds United to be completing this summer. So I'll get into how Leeds United are a permanent Joe Rothwell move at some point. But first, I need to introduce you to the channel, who are Match Bingo. Match Bingo is a new way of watching football. You can play along after getting your bingo card, and things get filled out for stuff like VAR, corners, free kicks, goals, throw-ins, specific timings of stuff, and you can win cash prizes with 1 line, 2 lines, or 3 lines. However, you need to be 18 or above to play, and make sure that you are staying gamble aware. All of that information is down below, including a link to gambleaware.com. Anyway, getting into the main bit of news, if you see any weird cuts, by the way, it is because I have to have small coughing fits at the moment. But Leeds United are set for a permanent Joe Rothwell move, at least in my opinion. Everything is starting to add up in that direction, and I'll discuss why in a moment after this little cough. So that always feels great. Anyway, Iraola in a recent press conference discussed the futures of both Jadon Anthony and Joe Rothwell, and it was quite interesting. So he specifically mentioned that Jadon Anthony is a definitive move. However, that isn't the case for Joe Rothwell. It's different situations because Jadon is going to be a definitive move, whilst Joe Rothwell was just a pure loan without any guarantee of us signing him once we go up, which is good business from us, in my opinion. Turned out to be a really good player, but if he didn't, then this keeps us a little bit safer. However, whilst it's not on paper as a definitive move, there are a hell of a lot of signs pointing towards the fact that this will happen, including a conversation Joe Rothwell had with Leeds Live, in which he said, "I've loved my time here, and whether that continues, that's not up to me. That's between the club and my agent." He also said that he'd been saying this since day dot and all that kind of stuff. He says, "I'll concentrate on doing what I've got to do and hopefully get this club back up to the Premier League." And Leeds United's Twitter account very, very deliberately held up a big thing saying Leeds are falling apart again on the back of a shirt. So that says that he's feeling very, very Leedsy at the moment. There is very clearly the will for this move to be permanent from Joe Rothwell. In addition to that, his contract ends in 2026, 1 year from now, which basically means that Bournemouth are in a position where they need to make a sale. If they don't, they will just lose him for free in about a year's time. And that makes it a lot more tempting for Leeds United because we have to pay a little bit less money. And yes, we'd need to pay for a more expensive contract, but the fee is lower. And that'll get the club a little bit more attracted. And we know that Rothwell is basically going to tell his agent, "I quite like it here, so if we can make it happen, let's make it happen." Add on to that Daniel Farke's comments from a while ago, in which he not only called him a pure baller, said with the ball, probably one of the best in this country. What he does in terms of passing, his technique and tidy touches is outstanding. If you enjoy football, you enjoy him playing. Which says Joe Rothwell very probably finds his way into the squad for next season. Absolutely everything that I'm looking at here is pointing towards Leeds United getting this deal done. But why make the move? Why is this the right move for Leeds United? Well, first of all, he already knows the system. Managers have very specific systems of play, and it doesn't matter if two things will look very similar. A midfielder dropping into it will have to learn a lot of things. He'll have to learn the patterns of movement that are going on around him, everything in those terms. So that makes the adaptation period significantly easier rather than just going for someone else. And it brings a lot of certainty to our transfer dealings. If we're able to say right now, cool, Rothwell is locked up at Leeds United, do the same for some other players, that makes things simpler. That means that we've got a lot less to do elsewhere, which calms things down a little bit, makes them a little bit gentler and pulls things into shape. And it limits the amount of business that we actually need to do. If we can say, okay, cool, we've got Joe Rothwell done, then we don't need to let Joe Rothwell go and find a completely new player to bring in that makes sure that they fit in with our no dickheads rule and make sure that they are the right profile and style and all that kind of stuff. And whilst a lot of people will ask the question of, can we do better in terms of players that we're picking out and potentially signing? Probably, but that is riskier. And one of the main things that I've considered when I've been writing this is that time to settle in is a colossal factor. Everyone's favourite prospective manager, Jose Mourinho, said in, I think it was the first season of the Spurs documentary, maybe, that a player isn't going to be at his best at his first season at a club, especially when they're changing countries. Like, if we're signing someone from abroad, they need to get used to English culture. They need to sort out documentation like visas and all that kind of stuff. They need to get used to new teammates, new structures, new managers. That's good. I don't know why that's happened. Well, that's fun. That was fun. That was camera turns off followed by 2 coughing fits. But yeah, settling time to a new club is a colossal factor and one that we definitely need to keep in mind, especially when it comes to getting promoted to the Premier League. We need players that are at their best. So whilst getting very, very strong signings from elsewhere is a good idea, it's also one where if you do it a little bit too much, you risk sort of destabilizing the spine of a team. So I think having someone that is very, very good, like Joe Rothwell, that has been here already is a benefit. In addition to that, it means that we've got more money for those more important places for the bigger investments. So we're going to need a new left back. Let's acknowledge this. Like, whether it's Junior Firpo still at the squad or not, or Junior Firpo as a backup, or Junior Firpo has left, we're going to need a new left back. We're probably going to need a centre back or two. We'll need a new goalkeeper. We'll probably need a number 9. So there are more important places to make those big investments. A number 10, another example, because there are a lot of other linked deals going on at the moment. For example, Julian Weigl at Gladbach is someone that Daniel Farke personally really likes, and Weigl really likes Daniel Farke, so potentially that fits together quite nicely. Same for Nico Elvedi. He said he didn't want to drop to the Championship. Well, we're in the Premier League now, and that in the past was the one thing that was stopping that deal from being borderline confirmed. In addition to that, there's several intriguing youngsters that I've personally heard that we are linked with that I cannot wait for, and probably get a permanent Solomon deal done, because that feels like one that just sort of makes sense for us to do. He's a very, very good player. He's Premier League standard. So let's keep him around. But on Rothwell, the question is, will it happen? And for me, absolutely. It's not going to be too expensive. Thanks, camera. Interesting. Okay, there we go. This has been a fun video for tech issues, but yeah, I feel like this one happens. It'll fall, in my opinion, in the sort of £6 to £9 million range. I guess maybe 8-ish, if I had to put a number on it. And it's well worth it. He's a very, very good player, and I think he will have a role to play next season, mainly off the bench, but he's a good option to have around. But at the end of the day, as always, that is just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. It's always very interesting. Subscribe if you're not yet as well, and also check out the Match Bingo QR code down here. You can get yourself a bingo card and it'll be wonderful. Anyway, yeah, I don't know if I've got much more to say. Like and subscribe. I've done that one. Become a channel member. I've done that one. I do have one other thing to show off, but I might save the front of these for some point soon. See you later.